So let's just ask the big question right up front. How do you actually define a superpower? I mean, what does that word even mean? Is it just about having the biggest, baddest army? Is it all about the money? Or is there something more to it?
Well, the answer, as it often does, is in the data. It turns out you can pretty much break down global dominance into 4 key pillars. You've got first, a massive economy. That's a big one. Then, of course, a powerful military. We're talking the most advanced tech on the planet. Third, you have what's called soft power. That cultural influence that comes from Hollywood movies, global media, even how many Olympic medals you win. And finally, number 4, a relentless drive for innovation. Think places like Silicon Valley or NASA. And when you stack up all the countries against these 4 things, one name consistently comes out on top.
And that, of course, brings us right to the heart of what we're talking about today, the United States of America. So let's do this. We're going to decode the anatomy of this superpower. We'll look at its geography, its history, its political system, all the pieces that came together to create this dominant force on the world stage.
You see, the story of America's rise, it doesn't really start with a battle or a brilliant invention. Nope, it starts with the land itself. You could almost say its power was a gift from geography.
Just look at a map. America's geography gives it this incredible, almost unfair, strategic advantage. It's this continental colossus, right? A huge piece of land protected on both sides by 2 massive oceans, the Atlantic and the Pacific. Think about it. That's a natural fortress. It's made the country incredibly difficult to invade throughout its history, giving it a level of security that, honestly, very few other nations have ever had.
And when we say huge, we mean huge. To put a number on it, we're talking about roughly 9.8 million square kilometers. It's massive. It's about 3 times bigger than all of Europe combined. This isn't just a country, it's practically a continent unto itself. But here's the thing, it's not just about the sheer size. The land itself is blessed with this almost unbelievable diversity. I mean, you've got everything from the Arctic tundra in Alaska all the way down to the subtropical Everglades in Florida. This massive range of climates and ecosystems, well, that translates directly into incredible natural wealth.
And this diversity is it's astounding. You've got iconic wildlife like the polar bear and the bald eagle. You've got over 20,000 different species of flowers. The geography literally goes from misty rainforests to some of the driest deserts on Earth. All of this natural bounty has been a huge cornerstone of its economic power right from the start.
Okay, so you have this incredible geographic foundation, right? But how did the nation itself actually get built on top of it? Let's take a look at the blueprint, the story of how it was forged over time.
The modern story really kicks off, as we all know, back in 1492. Fast forward through European colonization, you get the British, the Spanish, the French, and you get to the 13 colonies. In 1776, they declare independence, they fought a Revolutionary War, and boom, by 1789, they've got a constitution and their first president, George Washington. A whole new nation is born.
And man, this young nation grew fast. In 1803, the Louisiana Purchase literally doubled its size almost overnight. But this super fast expansion, it also brought a huge crisis to a boil, the issue of slavery. And that led to the absolutely devastating Civil War from 1861 to 1865. The Union, under Abraham Lincoln, won, which preserved the nation, but the cost was just tremendous.
Okay, so after the Civil War, the U.S. just explodes into this period of massive industrialization. It becomes a real economic powerhouse. It manages to survive the Great Depression in the 30s, and then in 1941, it enters World War II. Now this was a huge turning point. The U.S. came out of that war as a dominant global victor. Its factories and cities were untouched, while much of Europe and Asia was just in ruins.
Then, the second half of the 20th century, well, that was all about one thing, the Cold War. It was this massive ideological, political, and tech standoff against the Soviet Union. And then, in 1991, the USSR collapsed. And just like that, the scales tipped completely. The United States was left standing as the world's one and only superpower.
So, okay, we've seen how geography and history shape the U.S., but a country this big, this complicated, it needs a really solid operating system, right? So how is it all actually governed?
The key thing to understand is its structure. It's a federal republic. The people who founded the country were, really nervous about putting too much power in one person's or one group's hands. So they came up with this system based on a separation of powers split across 3 distinct branches: the legislative, the executive, and the judicial.
Let's break that down. The legislative branch, which is Congress, is itself split in 2. First, you've got the House of Representatives. It has 435 members, and that number is based on a state's population. So more people, more representatives. Simple. But then you have the Senate, and that's all about equal representation. Every single state, whether it's huge or tiny, gets exactly 2 senators. It's a clever way to create a balance between representing the people directly and representing the states as equal entities.
So what about the other 2 branches? Well, there's the executive. That's led by the president, who is the head of the government and also the commander-in-chief of the military. And then you have the judiciary, with the Supreme Court at the very top. Their job, to interpret the laws. This whole 3-part system is designed to create checks and balances, so no one branch gets too powerful.
All right, so we've got the structure down. Now let's talk about what fuels the whole thing. What's the economic engine that really drives this superpower?
Well, a huge part of that engine starts with energy. The U.S. runs on this incredibly diverse mix. You've got thermal, you've got nuclear, and you've got a growing chunk coming from renewables. Having all these different sources, it gives the country the energy security it needs to power the biggest, most advanced economy on Earth.
And that energy, it fuels everything else. It's what powers the world's longest road and rail networks. It's what keeps the lights on in Silicon Valley. It's behind the world's biggest aircraft factories, the massive military budget, and of course NASA, the top space agency in the world. The line connecting energy, infrastructure, and innovation, it's a very direct and very powerful one.
Okay, so we've covered a lot. We've talked geography, history, government, the economy. But if you had to boil it all down to just one thing, what's the real secret ingredient to America's lasting power?
And this really brings us to the core idea here. America's greatest strength, it might not be its land or even its military. It's the country's incredible historical ability to act like a giant global magnet for talent. Think about it. From Albert Einstein, who completely redefined physics while in the US, to the brilliant scientists at NASA today, or the CEOs of huge global companies. This country has consistently pushed forward by welcoming the world's best and brightest and making them its own.
So here's the big takeaway. That idea of the American dream, the promise that anyone from anywhere can come and succeed, that isn't just some nice cultural idea. It is the engine of its superpower status. It's the thing that allows a nation built by immigrants to constantly reinvent itself and stay at the bleeding edge of innovation. The defining question for the future, of course, is, can that engine keep running?